Today we've got something pretty special. You might have heard of a company called Vertu, who recently went out of business but initially gained popularity for their super luxury, ultra high-end smartphones, going up to $50,000. And people were wondering when the first company would come out to manage to recreate that same design at a much more affordable price. Well, right here we have just that, and the outer packaging is definitely a good start. It's made almost entirely out of this faux leather material. It's not real leather here, but inside the box you'll see we actually do have some of that. But also you'll notice how much of a departure this is from a standard cardboard smartphone box, and it's a nice change. The box is very solid from the sides and has a plush cushion-like feel to the top. So without any further ado, let's get it open. So the first thing you're going to see is the device itself, in a pretty unusual shade of brown. This is a rare colour, and in fact a rare form factor for smartphones in 2018 just because of how niche the appeal is, but I think it's quite a refreshing change. There's a little tab on the side of the phone, and to get it out you just got to give that a little pull, and just taking this cushioning, you'll notice the way the phone is presented is so atypical because of its fashion appeal. This is appealing to the kind of people who would buy expensive watches or very expensive cufflinks or ties, so that is how it's presented. As well as the quick start guide, we've got a pretty standard looking 10-watt charger. There's nothing at all fancy going on here, it's just standard plastic construction, and the same can be said for the cable. But we do have a couple of extras here. We've got a pair of pretty premium looking earphones, but unfortunately when you get close up with them you realise they're made entirely out of plastic, and that definitely somewhat takes away from the luxury appeal, but they do sound a little bit better than they look. Moving on, right in the bottom compartment of this box there's another curiously heavy little metal object, and you unscrew the top and you realise that is a screwdriver. Now why exactly we'd need one of these, I guess we've got to wait and find out, but that is it for the contents of the box, so let's get onto the phone. Alright, the device in question, and forgive me as I'm about to butcher the name, is the Kcosit S8, and it's not a fake. This is a legitimate, albeit small, smartphone company that does make a variety of devices, but this one in particular, the S8, is themed after a phone you may have seen before, the Vertu Signature Touch, specifically the alligator brown version. And the similarities here, they actually stretch a little bit further than just the surface level. Now of course, a big part of what made the Vertu smartphones so enticing were the materials used, and to fit a device into this kind of price bracket, sacrifices had to be made. So for example, the original was made of cocoa brown alligator skin, polished titanium, and sapphire crystal for the display. So obviously we don't have that, but what I do like about the Kcosit phone over here is that the compromises are reasonable. Instead of an alligator skin, we do actually have real leather covering the body, and this has been shaped into an alligator style pattern. And even when you zoom right up to this, when you scrutinize it closely, the stitching is done remarkably. I couldn't find a single flaw in it, so yes, whilst $400 is a lot to pay for a phone, compared to the original Vertu devices, this looks like a steal in comparison. In terms of the frame, this isn't a polished titanium finish as we found in the original Vertu, but it's not that far off. It's a metal alloy consisting of aluminium and steel. And when you also factor in how much of that metal is on this phone, you realise it's not a slim or a light device by any means. Comparing it to any normal sized smartphones, you realise carrying this around in public, you're going to get looks. But it is nice to see we've got a headphone jack right in the centre at the top of the phone, and also a surprise feature, IP67 water resistance. I know, I'm pretty surprised too. And while the phone doesn't have sapphire crystal on the display, it's got the next best thing, aka Gorilla Glass. Now you might be wondering what is this funny looking module on the back of the phone. That at its very core is a fingerprint scanner. And the way the module is shaped, your finger naturally falls in place on the scanner. It's quite cleverly designed. But it's actually got a dual purpose, because when you use the enclosed screwdriver, unscrew it, you've got a removable backplate, which then serves to insert your SIM cards or even a micro SD card here. The backplate implies that the company has made 818,000 of these phones at least. I'd be surprised if there was even 5. When you start screwing the plate back in, it dawns on you how much of an inefficiently designed phone this is. This is such a fiddly process and really makes you wish they had some sort of instant button flip out mechanism. But that is exactly the appeal of the phone. This device has made many sacrifices, all for the sake of visual appeal, so the backplate is just another one added to the list. Display-wise, the S8 is rocking a pretty standard 5-inch 1080p LCD, but the thing which I'm more drawn to is the theme on the phone. which has borrowed a lot of the matte black elements from the Vertu phones and almost pasted them onto this phone. But to its detriment, the UI is a little bit too inconsistent here. We've got a lot of really nicely themed dark style icons, but then you click on them and their applications are stock Google ones. But then at the same time, some of these apps are built from the ground up just for this device and they are themed really well. Performance-wise, it's not going to blow anyone away. It's got 4 gigs of RAM, which is solid, but at the same time, a pretty low-end MediaTek processor. So whilst in terms of visual identity, the phone holds its own for $400, as soon as you turn that screen on and start exploring the software and what you can do with it, it pales in comparison to other similarly priced devices. It's got a 13 megapixel camera, but this too feels like a very rushed effort. It feels like in order to create this beautiful, seamless body of the phone, everything else has been compromised. Alright guys, if you like slightly stranger phones like this, I do have a video out on the Elephone U Pro, which is actually quite good value for money. So check it out, I'll leave it as a card above. And with that being said, my name is Aaron, this is Mr. Who's the Boss, and I'm signing out.